we did that. And I took it to my manager when he got back, and I said, hey, this is what I'd like it to be, and can we do this? Mm-hmm. And he said, it's a little nerdy. But
we embrace nerds around here.
We do. He said, tone it back a little bit. Okay. Hello, and thank you for joining us for...
Whoa. I'll take it from here. Hey, everyone. This is a really special episode of the Podcast Aquatic, the official podcast of the Tennessee Aquarium here in beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee. And today is a really special day because it is our 50th episode of the podcast. Huge milestone. And for that reason, you get me, your new pal Rachel, interviewing your old pal Casey Phillips, host of the Podcast Aquatic. Everybody welcome Casey Phillips.
Hooray.
Welcome to your own podcast, Casey.
Thank you.
So glad you could make it.
How the turntables have turned.
The turntables have been playing Blue Oyster Cult all morning in my head.
But not on the show, because that would be a copyright infringement.
That would be, but it does set the tone. So if the rest of you could participate mentally and just join me.
Or just put it on. Put it on in the background.
Or put it on. It'll really set the vibe for this conversation.
Always a good time for Blue Oyster Cult.
Well, let's get to know Casey a little bit. Casey Phillips, what is your title here at the aquarium?
I am our Senior Communications Specialist.
Senior Communications Specialist. And how long have you been here?
It will be 10 years next October, so 9 years and 2 months-ish at the time of recording.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking, I know that we're very close. I'm 10 years anniversary in July, and I know it wasn't very long after that we met when you started working here. Mm-hmm. But you didn't start as a podcaster. How did you start at the aquarium?
That's right. I wasn't a senior communications specialist either. I was a young and spry communications specialist. And that doesn't mean a whole lot to anybody because it's a very nebulous title, kind of by design. It was a position that was created, I think, specifically with me in mind. I'd reached out to our current VP of communications and marketing, asking if there was a possible place for me at the aquarium, and he said no, but stay tuned. And he reached out to me and said, we've got a position open that I think would be a good fit for you. At the time, I was a newspaper reporter. And he brought me in specifically more to write for what was at the time a print publication, our members magazine, Riverwatch, which is now just our website, Riverwatch, at tnaqua.org/Riverwatch. And so primarily my job was to be the primary writer for that magazine, as well as write a lot of our, all of our news releases and various other things that were mostly writing centric.
So you're a legit journalist, newspaper man, wrote for one of our local papers.
Mm-hmm. Lapsed journalist. You can't ever really be. It's like being in the Marines. You're never really out of journalism.
Tell us about your background. Like, you went to college for this? How did you get started in journalism as a writer?
So I was about, I thought I had a lot of ideas of what I wanted to do when I was growing up, like a lot of people, and a lot of young people, I think. And I thought for a long time I wanted to be in computer programming, or IT, so fix computers, something to do with computers. Just very into tech stuff, and I still am. But I don't remember what it was exactly. I knew that I liked to write. I was the editor of the high school's literary arts magazine, and a contributor to that before that, and was weirdly not part of the newspaper, although my school did have one. And at some point, I decided that I didn't like the idea of all the math that was going to be involved in going into IT. I assumed there was math. I'm sure there probably was.
I'm sure there is.
And computer science and lots of math. And as much as I liked math, I liked writing a lot more. And I was like, how can I be a writer and also get a paycheck? And journalism just kind of landed on my radar, and I never really let go of it. I went to college at Middle Tennessee State University, just up the road in Murfreesboro, which is south of Nashville, if you're not boned up on your Tennessee geography. And I never looked back. I wasn't one of those students who drifted from side to side. My brother did. He was going to be a lot of different things before he ended up in the role that he was. But I didn't moonlight as a meteorology student or dabble in anything else. I was very focused on journalism, and I never really deviated from that. So that was a way to get a paycheck. I didn't realize how small that paycheck would be. But I graduated in 2007, so about almost 20 years ago, which hurts to say. And then, I was there at the newspaper, the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, our local daily newspaper, still daily, despite a lot of newspapers not really being that anymore, and was there for about 10 years. So I have almost worked at the Aquarium longer than I've worked anywhere else. In a few months, I'll have passed my tenure at the newspaper.
And did you have a specialty as a journalist? What kind of stories did you write for the paper?
Ooh, I was our pop culture and tech reporter.
That makes sense. That seems like you.
I was hired to be our nightlife reporter, which does not really.
That does not sound like Casey Phillips.
I like music a lot. I played music growing up. I still play music off and on. But writing about bands was really interesting and something that I'm glad I did. I got to interview some really cool people. But my heart was really in just being a kidult. So I'm just a kid who never really grew up. And so my house is full of action figures and comic books and video games and all that sort of stuff. So I wrote about what I love. And that's a very fulfilling thing to do as a journalist. Not everybody gets to do that, but they were good to me at the newspaper and let me kind of figure my own way out and write about the things that I was passionate about, because if you're passionate about something, whatever that thing is, you're going to do better at it because you're going to invest more of your time and your energy into it in a way that you wouldn't if it was something that you just do for the paycheck. Yeah,
I think people can tell if somebody behind journalism or other things is really enjoying and passionate about what they're doing. I think it shows through, even in, the aquarium world. If we are really, really into an animal, you're going to be able to tell because, well, we won't stop talking about it. But also, I just think their exhibits turn out, over the top fantastic because we did so much research because we got into special interest wormholes probably about whatever that thing is and needs. And then it just really makes all of our work even better.
Yeah, like in your case, and not to flip the tables around again, although the turntables are continuing to turn.
They're turning all over.
Yeah, I'm thinking when you and I first met, you were really focused on jellyfish. That was I think probably your primary area of focus, right?
Yeah, that was the gallery I was in. Yeah.
So at the time we had the Jellies Living Art Gallery, which is one that as much as I am glad that the aquarium does never stays static, I think it'd be bad for us if we did. I do miss that gallery. It was a really cool intersection of art and science.
Yeah.
And it was modeled after, I think, a similar exhibit at your past facility.
Indeed.
Right? Wasn't it Monterey Bay?
Yeah, Monterey Bay Aquarium had the first Jellies Living Art concept gallery. And we borrowed a lot of that, and also even some of the tanks came from there too. So
cool. So and if you're not familiar with that, if you weren't a fan of the aquarium or never visited during the time that it was here, it was kind of a combination of these really amazing, I don't remember the artist's name unfortunately, but maybe you do, but these blown glass artworks that were very evocative of jellies, this kind of organic shapes and really beautiful colors. And the gallery had all these really amazing jelly species like egg yolk jellies and lion's manes jellies. And you and I had a lot of those conversations about, I've got this really cool new jellyfish that came in. You need to come over and take pictures of it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And like flower hat jellies were another particular
We ran
favorite.
The gamut. We tried to get a lot in there.
Yeah. And I think, so that all goes back to, I think you were clearly very passionate about jelly. You still are, I think.
Yep.
But you were like the jelly person.
Yeah. But back to your point, and I'll take the turntable from here, sir.
Sorry.
The fusion of art and science. I think about this a lot here because I consider you to be part of the creatives that work here. And you mentioned taking pictures. That's also been part of your job here. Not just photos, but you did a lot of video work for us too. And you've made some fantastic videos that have gone out on social media or other platforms. Sometimes we just get to enjoy them in-house too, which is really cool. But what is it about that creative side that you enjoy doing or you think helps, what we do here at the aquarium?
So we have said on this show frequently that you don't care about things you don't know about. And I think it's important that any aquarium or zoo, anybody who wants the public to support whatever their cause is, that the public has to know what that cause is. And the best way to do that is to create hopefully compelling content that they want to consume to teach them about whatever that thing is. And for us, obviously, what people want to know about us is about the animals, obviously, but also increasingly, I think people care about how we care for the animals. So the stories that I am charged with telling and that I think have, at least in my time doing this, that have really resonated with people have been ones that show what people like you and the other members of our staff, how the obvious vested interest they've got in the well-being of their animals. And it really humanizes them. I think there's people have a lot of feelings about zoos and aquariums and, feel kind of torn. Should I support a zoo or aquarium? Is this a good thing to are they doing good things? Is the fact that they're around a good thing for animals as a whole?
Right.
And the stories that you want to tell are the ones that show like these animals are living really, honestly, the best lives they possibly can. And that's a direct result of how much people like you care about them. And so those are the stories that I really want to show and that I think people have cared about. But the thing that I think makes me want to tell those stories isn't just about making people see how much we obviously care for the animals and how important their happiness, happiness to anthropomorphize it, but how important their well-being is to us, but also to just tell the stories. So my entire career at this point, 20 years long, has been ultimately, if you boil it down, it's just being a storyteller.
Right.
And it could be a story about a 98-year-old mandolin player down in Georgia who's still playing music, or about somebody who is 23 years old but is dealing with the effects of having a stroke. Or it could be about our lemur team and how they've had to find these really creative ways to help a lemur deal with a loss in his life.
Right.
And there was very social animals. How do you help an animal like that deal with the sudden departure of
their mate?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are really good stories because they serve both the dual purpose of showing people the emphasis we place on animal care, but at the same time also they're just inherently good stories. They're stories that pluck at the heartstrings, that make people hopefully feel invested in what we're doing and want to ultimately come and visit us and support us.
Being one of the aquarium storytellers has taken you a few different places. What have been your favorite opportunities that have come from being the aquarium storyteller? Like you've been out in the field, you've been able to, travel or, with work and things. What have been your favorite moments as the storyteller?
That's a good question. One of the early in my time here stories I got to tell was when we were doing radio tagging of alligator snapping turtles. Out at the Tennessee Aquarium Conservation Institute, we had a herpetologist who has since moved on to another facility, but at the time he was doing this research with, I think it was Southeast Missouri State University. I might have the name wrong. And if I do, I'll insert an aside here explaining what that name was. Casey here in the editing booth. Nope, I nailed it. He was out working with students and radio tagging alligator snapping turtles to kind of figure out how they were moving around and making use of their range. And that was important because, alligator snapping turtles, they are these big, robust reptiles, but, it was trying to determine, I think, ultimately, do they need protection? Like, what's the status of their population? And if it's not great, do they warrant some sort of conservation status that would afford them protections and additional resources that would help them to bounce back if they needed to bounce back? So that was a cool chance to go and be in a swamp in West Tennessee out near Memphis. And I've been in caves with our aquatic conservation biologist at Tennessee. A lot of my travel has been with Tennessee, but getting to travel with our green sea turtle, Oscar,
Right.
who's a much beloved, now not absent, but he's he's off-site at an off-site care facility now. But when we were trying to figure out the issue behind why he was having some health concerns,
Right.
we vanned him, I guess, over to a local hospital to do an MRI. I don't know if you were
Yes.
you were part of that?
Well, I was backup to the backup to make sure that everything was handled that day. But I wasn't part of the responding team that was moving him and getting him to the MRI.
Yeah, so that was, or CT scan.
Or whatever, yeah.
He was, and it was cool though. I think that's the kind of day that I love because it shows how, even if you aren't directly part of that response team,
Mm-hmm.
when something like that happens with one of our animals, it's almost like everybody's part of it.
Yeah.
They're all adjacent to a care requirement or,
Right.
or a care plan, I guess. And there are backups to backups to backups. And,
Yep.
and seeing Oscar go through a CT scan that's normally reserved for human patients, and then watching the screen show
The imaging and
it was very, very cool.
it is pretty cool.
And it was, again, I think those are cool stories because they show how not only are we this top tier animal exhibitor and caretaker of these animals, that requires a lot of trust on the public's part to say, yes, you should be the steward for these animals. You clearly have the expertise and the passion to do this and do it justice. But also, I mean, that was a hospital that has no association with the aquarium other than that they are in the same town as us. And they were willing to let us use their facility, which was super cool. And I think shows how we are not just in Chattanooga, but part of Chattanooga.
Yeah, we have fantastic community support for the aquarium here, which is really special, and it makes it's one of the things that makes Chattanooga really special too. So we know that we've got people we can rely on in various fields when we need help with something, and they always come through, which is really, really cool, I think.
Has that ever helped you out?
I'm sure it has. I can't come up with anything right off the bat, but I know people from, we have a lot of different contractors that come in and, build things, fix things. So those are probably the ones that help me the most directly. Haven't had any CTs on jellyfish though. So.
But in your case, you've had these cool partnerships with local schools.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I love education's really important to me too. So I love those kind of networking and partnership opportunities too.
Yeah, that was with Macaulay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Macaulay School.
Yeah, so that's a local private school here in Chattanooga.
Yep.
Very, very well respected nationally even, but they are our local private school, one of our local private schools.
Yeah.
And you got to work with them on jellyfish acidification?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
ocean acidification's impact on jellyfish.
Yes, which then became a published scientific article, which is pretty cool.
For more information about that, see one of the very, very early episodes of the Podcast Aquatic. I think that was our Science in Zoos and Aquariums, and whether you are a scientist. And we determined that, yes, you are a scientist.
I am. Okay, so you're here at the aquarium. You're telling stories in print, in photos, in videos. Why a podcast? Where did the idea for the podcast come from?
Okay, so for a long time, our team, the comms team at the aquarium was really it was pretty small. Mm-hmm. And it was, for a long time, we had our digital content strategist who kind of oversaw how the content was going to be pushed out. And when I was hired, I became our main content producer. And so for several years, it was just me doing everything. I was writing everything. I was taking most of the photos. I was also making the videos. And there was very little bandwidth for me to do anything different. And when the team expanded a couple years ago, we added in a new photographer, Doug, who's been on the show before, who became our sort of de facto staff photographer. We have a staff photographer who also was on Todd, who has been here for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. But he was more focused on taking photos for the gallery. So the storytelling side of photos really kind of fell on my shoulders and then on Doug's shoulders. So that freed me up a little bit. So that let me focus a little more on video. And in the back of my brain was always this kind of idea percolating that like podcasts are becoming more of a thing. We should really do a podcast. Like it just seemed like low-hanging fruit, like something that would not require, little did I know how much time would actually go into it, but it seemed like there would not be a huge time investment to have a conversation with somebody and then put that up online on some service. But there just really wasn't length on my runway to be able to add one more project to it. But then we managed to add to the team again. We had one more round of like expansion that brought in Bianca, who is become the voice and sometimes the face of a lot of our social content. So if you watch a lot of our shorter form videos on like TikTok or Instagram, those are all Bianca at this point. And while I miss getting to do some of those, her being on the team and doing such a good job and letting me feel very confident and leaving that more in her hands. Not that it wasn't really my decision, but
it opened opportunities for you.
Exactly. So then there was like this, I had room on my plate to be able to add in something else like a podcast. And so before we actually launched the Podcast Aquatic, it was just in my brain, it was just called the Tennessee Aquarium Podcast. And I reached out to Dr. Bernie Kahida, who has been on the show many, many times. He's our aquatic conservation biologist. And I also know him to be something of a rebel. So he likes to push the boundaries of what he's allowed to do. And so when our respective managers, our VPs over our respective departments were at a conference, I called them up and they were there for the whole week. And I said, "Hey, Bernie, do you want to do something that we're totally not allowed to do?" And he said, "Absolutely, I do." He didn't even I didn't even explain what it was. He was like, "Yes, whatever it is."
Should I clutch my freshwater pearls at this moment?
I said, "I've got a mic and I've got an idea. I just want to come out and maybe I'll even play like a clip from this. I'll put a clip from because I still have the audio.
Let's hear it
of the demo. We recorded a pilot basically, and I went out to Tennessee to our conservation headquarters, and I said, "Let's sit in a conference room. I only have one mic, so it sounds like garbage compared to hopefully what it sounds like now.
Lo-fi demo for sure.
Yeah, like there are things I've learned about audio production that hopefully will provide a pretty stark difference in quality between what you have just heard or are about to hear and this. But Bernie and I got on, and I asked him, to tell me about what it's like being a fish scientist in the Southeast. There's a lot going on in the Southeast for you to do as a fish scientist.
A whole lot. If you live in the Southeast, you actually have an underwater rainforest in your backyard. The incredible amount of aquatic life, and it's not only fishes, it's mussels, crayfishes, snails, aquatic invertebrates like dragonflies and mayflies. It's just there's no greater aquatic biodiversity anywhere in the temperate world where the leaves fall off of trees than here in the Southeast United States.
We did that, and I took it to my manager when he got back, and I said, "Hey, we talked about this for years. This is what I'd like it to be, and can we do this?" And he said, "It's a little nerdy, but maybe we yeah.
But we embrace nerds around here.
We do." He said, "Tone it back a little bit." Yeah. So Bernie and I did that, and I got the check I needed basically to say, go ahead and pursue it. So I talked to some people and got some recommendations for equipment to buy. The total cost was low enough that I felt like it was okay to take a flyer on it. Like it was okay to say, let me spend, I think it was like $1,000 to get the recorder that we're still using and like 3 mics, I think. And then it was just a matter of coming up with a name and figuring out, like we knew that the podcast it was ideally going to be like a marketing tool for the aquarium, just like all the content. Ultimately,
it makes sense.
It serves the mission by getting people.
It gets our name and what we're doing out there to people.
Yes, and ultimately, like we can apply whatever pretty coats of paint we want to it. And yes, we are mission driven, but we also want people to come and visit us, right? So the idea was to give people some insights into the aquarium's inner workings and the animal care team and all the stuff that we're doing. Our IMAX guest
deep dive here or there onto certain topics. Yeah,
and get enough content prepped that we could cover. We're in Chattanooga. If you look at a map, we're kind of like situated at the center of about 5 different larger cities. So that would be like our main like marketing market. Would be like Knoxville, Birmingham, Alabama, that'd be Knoxville, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, and all of those are about 2 hours away from us. And so the idea was create enough content to cover drive time to and from the aquarium.
Yeah.
So they're between like 2 and 3 hours. So the idea was like create about 3 hours of content. I was trying in the early days to try and stick to about a 30-minute runtime, which is
no, we blew that out like immediately.
The reason why is I don't think it serves the conversation to artificially shorten it just for the sake of an arbitrary deadline.
Right.
And I think that's been to the good. Some episodes maybe have gone on longer than they should have, but like you and I had one of those conversations early on, like the science at zoos and aquariums that I mentioned a little bit ago. And I want to go back and I still have the original audio and unedit it. And just include all the things that we
extended version,
the director's cut or the producer's cut, to really include some of that stuff that ultimately, if we'd had that same conversation today, I would have left all of it in. But I was trying to stick to that stupid artificial deadline of 30 minutes, and that went out the window. So 6 episodes was supposed to be the original season, and we're still on season 1, and this is episode 50. So that tells you something.
Yeah. So from quite humble beginnings of an idea that you weren't sure if it was going to take off or not, but you were going to try it and invest a little bit of time and energy into it, to episode 50 today. What have been some of the things that you've learned?
Oh, man.
About podcasting.
Oh.
You've learned a lot from everyone you've interviewed, obviously.
Totally.
But let's talk about like the podcasting itself.
Oh, okay. So, so having a podcast is very much in my wheelhouse anyway. Like a lot of the skills that you have to have as a podcaster.
It's journalism.
It is.
It's spoken journalism.
It is. It's no different really. Like these are, if I had recorded on this equipment every conversation I'd had at the newspaper, I would have had thousands of episodes of podcasts, because the approach to doing this job is 95% the same as being a journalist, having the same conversation.
You, as the listener, may not be able to tell because Casey does a really good job of making all these conversations very natural to anybody that he's talking to, but there's a lot of research and prep work done on his side before you come into the podcast studio to record with him. And he's got, talking points he wants to hit, questions he might want to ask. He sends those to us in advance, so like we kind of know what to expect and where the conversation might go, but it always goes other ways, in my experience anyway. Maybe that's my fault. But just that the journalism is there, definitely the research goes into the topic first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the same as I would go into any like interview at the newspaper, I would never go in without having done at least some sort of like, and sometimes it would happen when I do like an interview with a band, and the band would be like, wow, like,
you're so informed.
Like you listen to our music. I was like, well, yeah. But some people didn't. Like some people
they just
out there
show up and ask the same questions or something, I guess.
Like they'd be like, why do you like music? What do you love about, what do you play? What do you love about drums?
Really, you've been hitting stuff a long time, or?
Yeah, like when you hit it, like how hard do you hit it?
Yeah.
Like stupid, like questions that I think are really an insult to the craft of journalism, and I guess the craft of podcasting. You're doing a disservice to everybody by not going in at least somewhat prepared.
Yeah.
Because I know enough of the people who are on this show well enough that I could probably fly by the seat of my pants. And there are times that you deviate from the list because nobody wants to just sound like you're...
Follow the conversation sometimes.
Exactly. But no, I would always go in with at least some prep work. But the things I've learned, I guess, to go back to the question would be, have been more about like the technical side of it. So the talking part, I get. I've done that thousands of times.
As an Appalachian with the gift of gab.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can talk the shingles off a roof. I'm sure that's not a phrase, but
is it feathers off a hen or something? I don't know.
Sure, hairs off a frog.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so the technical side of it, just learning things like mic positioning, the back behind the scenes side of it, like the sitting down at the computer to produce it. I'm figuring out audio leveling so you're not blowing out the mics. Correcting where people who have been on the show have ignored all requests for podcast etiquette, like don't hit the table. Please don't put your drink on the table. I'm going to hear it. They're going to hear it. So there's a lot of things that are just having to learn to navigate the technical side of it that have been difficult. But the talking part of it, the core and heart of it is so just what I've been doing for so long that at least felt very comfortable. That never felt like it was something that I had to learn how to do.
Same art, different media.
Yeah. And so there's my philosophy as a journalist was, because people, again, have very loaded feelings about journalism, much like they do about zoos and aquariums, is that, there are just words that I avoided when making a request to talk to somebody. I would never say interview. Interview is one of those words that just people
triggers.
they have a knee-jerk reaction to it because it implies a certain kind of interaction. And what I want this podcast to feel like, and what I think all the podcasts that I really do like feel like, are to feel very conversational. I want them to feel like you're just having a conversation, because that immediately makes people feel more at ease. And people who are more at ease are going to be more open. They're going to have more fun, which is important to me. I want the people who come on the show not to feel like it's too much of it's too stressful or it's too difficult for them to do.
Right.
I want it to feel easy, because if it feels easy, then they're having a comfortable conversation, which is more pleasant to listen to than one where someone feels that they're being grilled.
Yeah.
Or caught off guard. Like, that's why I send the questions in advance. I wouldn't necessarily have done that as a journalist, but I think it's important that the people who come on this show understand, like, I'm not out to, like, get you. Like, I'm not doing an expose.
Right.
We're literally talking about something that's in your wheelhouse. We're going to talk about jellies.
Yeah.
And here's what I want to talk about jellies, because jellies is a huge topic. Here are the markers I want us to hit, like, to kind of give you, it's like to really make myself sound old, it's like a triptych. So if you're not over the age of 25 and don't remember what that was like, they would if you were going on a trip in the days before GPS, you could go to like AAA and ask them to print off directions from A to B, from like your house to whatever vacation destination you were going to, and they would send you literally like a thing that you would just flip through the directions you would go to. So I would just, like, they're like landmarks. I want you to like we're going from A to B. And
right.
Here are like 7 landmarks that I'd like us to find our way to. What happens between those landmarks is anybody's guess. And that's where the fun of podcasting
Maybe
happens.
we pull over and see the giant ball of yarn. I don't know. It could be cool.
We absolutely should.
Yeah.
Anytime you can see the largest of whatever it is, do it.
I know that you listen to a lot of other podcasts too. Are there podcasts that especially come to mind for you, like as inspiration for this podcast?
Some ones that immediately come to mind that I've always loved since my earliest days listening to podcasts were like Stuff You Should Know, which is a fantastic, just 2 guys talking about whatever the topic is. It could be like, I don't know, how to create fine jewelry, or how caves work.
Oh, so like super randomized, yeah.
Yeah, like just a topic, like how combustion engines work, or what's the deal with the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Just being able to talk about anything, like whatever they find interesting. If they find interest in it, hopefully the listener will find it too, and they nail it like 99 times out of 100. So Stuff You Should Know is one that I definitely listened to early on. One that's more in line with what we're doing here would be Ologies with Allie Ward.
Absolutely recommend. Ologies is fantastic, especially if you're looking for various sciences. Of course, the implication of the title, ology, meaning the study of thing. And every episode is about a different thing that someone studies, and she brings in an ologist of that thing, but also heads up to people who might want an edited version of it she releases Smologies.
I love it. It's my favorite short form podcast name.
They're fast. They're shorter episodes. They've been edited so that they're
for small people,
listener friendly for kids, for classroom use, or some other public arena where you might want to be mindful of words that are said or heard. More importantly, but they still are the same topic. So love Allie Ward and both of her podcasts.
She is just an amazing host. And I love how, like with her especially, she doesn't make any pretense about being an expert herself.
Oh yeah, she comes curious,
which I love. And I think that's one thing that I wish I could do more often, because I get so excited about the things I do know from having worked here that I think I let myself I can listen back to episodes and think, let the expert be the expert. Like you don't have to show off, and it's not that I'm showing off. Like,
no,
it just
happens
because I get excited about it.
And you're like, hey, remember when you told me this thing? Is this what we're talking about right now? Is this an example of that?
Exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah, and I think part of what's always driven me is curiosity, and so being able to have learned something and want other people to know those things. I think it's being like the son of a teacher that is part of that. Like I just wanting more people. You don't do a podcast like this if you don't want for people to learn something.
Right.
And the podcasts that I've always listened to have been ones where I feel like I've walked away like, oh wow, like I've got something to like pull out at my next cocktail party. I never go to cocktail parties.
You're wrong about that's a good podcast for that kind of thing too. And I can't remember the host name.
I've listened to a few episodes of that,
and it'll be usually like topics of like pop culture or history, like usually recent history, where it's like there's been a misconception about the person or the event, and they go back and they clear it up, and they, with a lot of good research going into it. So it really, I think, helps like inform your opinion of that person or event or whatever, and gives you a little bit more clarity maybe into what really went down.
Yeah. Well, and so I went to a conference earlier this year, back in the fall, to talk about podcasting at zoos and aquariums. And one of the things there are not a lot of zoos and aquariums that are doing podcasts. We're one of just a handful, really. And I was trying to explain why I thought more zoos and aquariums should do it, because and then one of the main drivers for that was looking at a study that found that the number one reason why most people listen to podcasts is to learn something.
Yes.
So, and it's because you've got to you're getting into a podcast with the expectation that it's going to be longer form content. You're not going on for a 30-second TikTok. Like
right.
you're committing to at least like the agreement between you and the listener is like, come along for this ride, and you're going to be entertained. And hopefully at the end of it, with a show like ours, you're going to learn something.
You're taking something away from it.
And that's the main driver for a lot of people why they listen to podcasts. And so the shows that we've been talking about do a good job of, again, giving you something to walk away with, having felt like you've learned something. Side Door is another really good one. That's the official podcast of the Smithsonian.
Oh, cool.
Lizzie Peabody is the host of that. I've been fortunate enough to connect with her online a couple of times, and she does an amazing job. And one cool thing about her is that her podcast is a little bit different. Side Door is a little bit different. It's a little more audio storytelling, I guess. Like it's more produced than ours. Like I would love to get to a point where ours is a little more telling a story, like with me serving more as like a narrator to then like feed into the setting scenes, like with natural audio and interviews like in the field. If you listen to something like This American Life, that's another good.
You'll hear, crickets and what,
Exactly. And we've done a little bit of that. Like when we talk about the cicada brood emergence that happened last year.
Gotta hear the cicadas.
Yeah, like what good is that episode without that sound?
I guess you should go in and record just the sound of the aquarium. Like on a busy day, hang a microphone in the middle of the aquarium and just record some ambient aquarium guest sounds.
Sometimes that could be pure chaos, but that would be fun. And I think we did that with Trump so think of another example of that. We did that with talking about birding with our curator for us, Kevin, and he talked about sandhill cranes, which coincidentally are arriving in this
it's
part
almost time.
They're now, like right now, they're flying into the Hiawassee Bird Refuge, which is just north of Chattanooga, and they have this really cool sound they make.
Yeah.
And they're we we've threaded through that sound because I was fortunate to go
to.
out. That's another fun experience was going out to cover the sandhill cranes up just on a boat on an absolutely frigid day.
Yes.
Like it was like 14 degrees or something out on the water, on the open water, going at like 30 miles an hour into the wind. To go look at these beautiful birds and seeing pelicans and all kinds of stuff. That was a fun trip too.
Yeah.
The Podcast Aquatic is made possible by support from the Tennessee Conservationist, the official magazine of Tennessee State Parks. This holiday season, give a gift that gets opened again and again. Printed sustainably, each issue of the Tennessee Conservationist is filled with fascinating stories about Tennessee's native species, rich history, and unique culture. Give a year subscription to your favorite outdoor enthusiast for just $20 at tnconservationist.org.
Let's go back to the other zoos and aquariums that do have podcasts. Do you remember which ones do?
So there are only a few, and some of the big ones, and I'm going to forget probably names, but I think I fed them to you, so
you
can look on your sheet. But San Diego has one called San Diego Zoo Tales?
Amazing Wildlife.
Amazing Wildlife. Oh, some other Zoo Tales.
Cincinnati Zoo
has Cincinnati Zoo Tales. San Diego is a really amazing one. A lot of podcasts for zoos and aquariums, if they don't have somebody like me who's doing this like as the main focus of their job, are on like a biweekly or even like a monthly schedule. So San Diego has invested a lot in having a team that does it, and so they're out every week, and they will zero in on like a specific species and just talk with the keeper for like 40 minutes about meerkats or about rhinos or whatever. They've an amazing collection of animals, and so they've got just this wealth of stories to tell. So I love San Diego's podcast, and I'll link all these in the show notes for this episode because I think they're all worth exploring. There is one at, what am I missing?
Toledo Zoo and Aquarium,
Zoo.
Our Herd.
That's right. That's a relatively new one. They started, I think, this year. I could be wrong. I think it's this year though, and they've got a video podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
Component to it.
And then our friends over at the Aquarium of the Pacific.
I definitely did not forget Aquarium of the Pacific. They are absolutely my favorite. If you want
fantastic title.
If you just want another podcast that's basically the Podcast Aquatic, but like on the West Coast, they're the closest analog to what we're doing. Like they're just two hosts, Madeline Walden and Aaron Lundy, who I got to go down and present with at the AZA conference that I mentioned earlier. And they just do an amazing job. I would listen to it even if I wasn't friends with them, but I am. Mm-hmm. And I get excited every time a new episode of theirs drops. They just put one out this week, or I guess at this point it'll be last week by the time this actually comes out, but about eels. And
you know we're big fans of eels here.
We love eels, and stay tuned because there are more eels a coming.
And special shout out to all of our podcast buddies out there in the zoo and aquarium world, and keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. And more people. I mean, join the fun. I mean, I'm glad that there's not a lot of competition, honestly, for this space, that if you want to know about zoos and aquariums, like we're kind of one of the ones that you're going to find first.
Yeah, it's special. It's unique.
And it's nice to be on the early end of it, but I'd love for more zoos and aquariums to have podcasts. Because
there's plenty to go around.
There are so many, I don't think that people appreciate fully, unless you're a listener of this show, like how much stuff that zoos and aquariums do, like all the different kinds of things they're doing that have nothing to do with what you're actually seeing when you're at the zoo, like the research that they're doing, the conservation programs that they're part of. Like I think if you want to feel good about visiting a zoo or aquarium, find a podcast and really dig into the conversations that hopefully those podcasts are doing about diving to plant abalone. In the Pacific Ocean, or the work that San Diego Zoo is doing to preserve genetic samples of all of their animals in their cold zoo. There are just a lot of amazing things that are happening out of you at a zoo or aquarium that would make you feel like by going there, you're supporting some really incredible, legitimate research and conservation.
It's a great way to get to know and like understand a zoo's mission or an aquarium's, values, and like what work do they want to do, what work are they doing, and like who are they as an institution.
Well, and the cool thing about a podcast is that you're in a situation where you're having hopefully one of those relaxed conversations where people feel free to be joyful and to express the kind of passion that is at the root of why they, work where they work and why they do that work. And I think having a podcast where someone can really just wax poetic about this conservation of this species that maybe you've never even heard of, suddenly you have a reason to care about it.
Right.
And again, you don't care about things you don't know about.
Right.
What better way to know about something than to listen about somebody just, I don't know, say how amazing it is for 30 minutes. Yeah,
absolutely. So where do you want this podcast, the Podcast Aquatic, to go in the future? Do you have ideas? Is this something you think about all the time, or is it sort of nebulous?
Oh, I'm always thinking about stories or topics to cover. That never ends. I've got a document on my computer that's got about 60 potential future episodes. And so that will never change. And I don't think I'll ever run out of stories to tell because we're always doing new things. We're always opening new galleries, adding new animals, doing new conservation stuff. So I'm not worried about there being stories to tell. I think one of the things that'd be nice to do, I mentioned video earlier. That's something that a lot of podcasts in general are turning more to, and I don't know quite how that would work because I end up doing a lot of editing.
Sure.
Just to cut out the ums and uhs and weird overlong pauses. And if you were to watch that on video, it would look like somebody was like schizophrenic and having like an episode. So I'd have to figure out a way to make that work. And you've had some suggestions that I'm considering doing, maybe filming the whole thing and only point out bits and clips. But I think incorporating video is one thing I'd really love to do. And pretty soon, in the next, probably in the next half a year, by this point, midpoint of 2026, hopefully there will be a permanent studio dive cage that I no longer will be lugging 60 pounds, not an exaggeration, of podcast gear all over our campus. That there will actually be
to meet with people where they are sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. I've had to go to people's offices. I've literally recorded in the middle of a state park before, which there'll be no fixing that. Like sometimes you want to go.
Sometimes you're going to be mobile.
Which is okay. Like it's by design, but it will be nice that there will be a permanent home for the studio dive cage in the not immediate future, but just over the horizon.
Right.
So that's exciting.
Okay. Now I have a couple of fun questions for you. I do want to talk about your favorite moment on the podcast or your favorite episode so far.
Okay. So 50 episodes in, there are a few that come to mind. I love some of those first 6 episodes. I love the one I had with you talking about science and zoos and aquariums because, again, I think it goes back to the opening people's eyes to the cool, legitimate research that's being done at zoos and aquariums that they didn't know about. I really love, again, you're my turntabled host for a reason because I do love having you on. But I love the one that we did about the Appalachian Animal Mythbusters.
That was a fun one.
That was a fairly recent one. And again, that'll be linked down in the show notes. But where we just bust those long-standing myths about here in East Tennessee that people have about the animals that they're dang sure that they saw. They definitely did not. Or maybe they did. Listen to the podcast. And then another one that it's not animal-centric, which might make it not seem immediately as interesting. But I do think it's an incredibly important part of who we are and what we aim to do in terms of our mission of reaching as many people as possible and helping them feel connected to the natural world. But that's our accessibility episode, talking about the various measures we have in place to make people with all kinds of different sensory challenges and physical challenges feel welcome and as if they can have the same experience here and feel those same bonds forming with the natural world. The Aquarium for Everybody episode was one of my favorites too.
Yeah, that is really important to us. So definitely go back and listen to that episode. What do you think or what do you find is different or interesting about interviewing people from all these different departments here at the aquarium? I think sometimes people don't realize how many different types of jobs there are at the aquarium. They're like, oh, like fish, you take care of the fish, you take care of the penguins. And, I know there's managers probably, and I've seen people talking to the guests, but there's so many other jobs and departments. So what's it like interviewing people from all those different realms of the aquarium?
So this is something that's been true basically since I started at the aquarium, is that people and I understand it, because when you do a job, it's easy for it just to be your 9 to 5. Like, even if you have that passion that I've mentioned being at the core of why a lot of people stay at zoos and aquariums, or why they join them to begin with, even if that's true, it can be very easy for some things to just kind of become by rote, and to not seem necessarily all that interesting to you when it's what you do every single day. But I think one thing that's been nice about this is showing people that even if, I think because of where you're doing the job you're doing, it inherently is more interesting to people.
Yeah, I find that's true.
So like, and this isn't necessarily true of the podcast yet, but I mean, like, I've had done things with our painters or our plumbers, or you are doing a job that people are familiar with. People have had to call a plumber. People have had to call an electrician, or had to maybe have their house painted. But you're doing it in a place where you're 2 feet away from an arapaima.
Right.
Or you're right next to where a lemur is climbing around.
Yeah.
And that makes it inherently a more interesting application of whatever that thing is than were you to do it outside of an aquarium. So that's been interesting, because it's easy to find stories to tell just because the fact that it's at an aquarium is immediately of interest and elevates it above what it would be if you were just talking about whatever that topic happened to be outside of the context of a zoo or aquarium.
Yeah.
What else have I enjoyed about talking to people? Again, I as much as I've been here for a decade almost, and in these conversations, I have almost without fail learned some interesting thing that somebody does or knows that I didn't know prior to starting that conversation. It could be like freshwater mussels with you and with Stephanie out at the Conservation Institute, and Avery, one of our senior aquarists. I mean, learning about the important role that they play in our Galentine's Day Mussel Spectacular.
Fantastic.
Or just hearing about the trials and travails of having to work in a backup, having your office be in a backup space that you're sharing with ringtail lemurs and red ruff lemurs that are so loud that they'll like break the glass almost with how loud they can get. Like just learning, I'm learning about the realities of doing jobs that aren't mine at the aquarium, and that is as interesting to me as I hope it is to the people who are listening to the podcast. Because
again, at the root of it, you're a storyteller, and you're a collector of stories also.
Yeah. Like I always told people, my parents, I guess, I justified going into a field where it turned out that I would not be making much money after all. And my brother was on a different path and was like making a more adult salary than I was.
Boo.
Yeah, boo.
Boo to brothers.
Well, I love my brother, but when I'm 80, like I'd rather look back and remember what it felt like when a ringtail lemur's tail draped over my arm while I was filming radiated tortoises, and remember how cold and miserable at the time it felt to be crawling on my belly through a cave to go look at, cave shrimp.
Or so you were told.
Yes.
Who knows why you were really dragged into a cave?
Well,
yeah, you got to think about that next time, Casey.
Well, it was with Bernie.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah,
you really need to be more cautious.
I should be. I don't know that I'd do it now. I would still do it.
Okay, well, tell somebody where you are and make sure you text me when you get out of the cave.
I always I send map pins to my wife every time I go out in the field like that.
Okay, good.
But I'd rather look back on moments like that when I'm 80 and have those be like the riches that I've accumulated than like a string of slightly larger TVs. Like that's more important to me. Like those experiences are so much more valuable to me.
You're really writing a great memoir. That's what this is.
Sure. I think it's interesting to have done something like this and to have a record, assuming that the robot apocalypse doesn't wipe out all record of anything that humans created, for my kids to look back at and listen to, when I'm 70, and for them to get insights into what I was doing when I was 40. Right. Like, I think that's having some sort of legacy, digital legacy or record of the things that you've done. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting for them, for me to know that there's going to be this record that people can go back and like, oh, that's what Grandpa sounded like.
Right. Okay. I think I have one, maybe last question. We'll see. And this one is, do you have any favorite fan suggestions for topics for the podcast? Do we take fan suggestions? Do we get fan suggestions?
I wish we got more. I would love for other people to take that pressure off my shoulders of coming up with ideas. I would have to think about that. We've had people reach out about doing, one recently came in from, and I get requests now that the podcast is seasoned enough that people are aware enough of it that I get emails propositioning like, would you like to have this person on as a guest who I represent? And I'm like their marketer. Mm-hmm. So there was an elephant sanctuary in Bali that people can go and visit, and it's part of responsible. These are like rescued Balian elephants, or elephants that were basically recovered from like logging camps.
Oh, okay.
And now they're living in a sanctuary. And that was one that, yes, they're trying to sell something, I guess, in that they want people to go and visit the sanctuary, but also they offered this person up to talk about, responsible tourism.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually legitimately a cool topic.
Yeah,
and
it's
one
important. That
I could see us in, if there ever is like a season 2,
yeah.
or maybe just
it's all one season, just keeps going forever.
Never stops. But doing one on how to be a responsible tourist and citizen of the earth, maybe at the start of travel season, that would be a good one. There are probably some that have come in that I'm not thinking about. Really, just at this point, there is a little enough response from I know people listen because I look at the metrics, but nobody's really like reaching out to be like, and we say it at the end of every episode, send your suggestions to podcast@tnaqua.org. Legitimately, please send your suggestions. I will read every single one of them.
Yes.
And the likelihood is, even 50 episodes in, I am so grateful for anybody even saying, yes, I do listen to your show. Would you talk about this?
Actually, if you're listening right now, would you please email podcast@tnaqua.org and say, yes, I'm listening to your podcast.
I would love that. I would love to get just one of those emails. Would make me feel pretty good.
So it sounds like we need some suggestions, ideas for episodes, topics that they want to hear about, questions they'd like answered. Maybe that turns into an episode. We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, someone asked for one. Oh, so, okay. A good one. Someone asked for one about Rays. And our, I don't remember what it was, Everybody Loves Rays, Man episode. It was months later that I finally got around to doing it. And like a couple months even after that it actually
was
published.
Edited and
But it was a fun topic. It was one that was like, what do you mean by rays? Like, like everything about rays. And I got a little more clarity, like how they're like, how you feed them, like what species do you have, how do you care for them, and that made for a really good episode. So it could be really broad. Just say, I mean, please don't say like.
Please send more than one word.
Yeah, like don't just say like fish. That's not really all that helpful.
Or water.
Yeah, send me something really vague like that, but then just know that I'm going to interpret it however I want, and I'm going to credit you with having sent the suggestion. I'll even name you, assuming your name is shareable.
Yes.
In polite company.
Well, Casey, thanks for spending time on your own podcast today with me.
Well, Rachel, thank you for taking on hosting duties. It's nice not to have to sit there and stare at a sheet of paper the entire time.
Did I do it good? Did I do a good job?
You did a good job.
I asked a lot of questions.
Hey, you know what?
What?
We're almost at an hour, which is about how long these podcasts usually last. And now you know.
I really did do it.
Now you know why these episodes go as long as they do.
They do. So thanks everyone out there for listening and tuning in, and then going back and listening to the other episodes that we suggested or recommended, or checking out the other podcasts that we talked about from our sister and brother facilities out there. If you have ideas or feedback, or you want to tell Casey, yeah, I'm a real person and I listen to your podcast, please email the Podcast Aquatic at podcast@tnaqua.org and let us know. And until next time, whatever that episode turns out to be, just remember that every drop matters.
Indeed.